that,
Yeah.
and then make
On. Right, good morning everyone. Welcome to the Staffordshire and Stoke Joint Archives Committee. I'm Councillor Watson, I'll be chairing today, and we've got an agenda in front of us. Please feel free to ask questions, and at the end of it there'll be a bit of a tour around the Staffordshire History Centre update. Staffordshire History Centre, that's what you get for reading and talking at the same time, and we'll get onto that after we've done our meeting. So we'll start with item 1. Has there been any apologies?
No apologies.
No apologies. So full house today. That's great. Number 2, declarations of interest. Any interest to declare? None? Okay, that's great. And item 3 is minutes of the meeting held on Thursday the 27th of June. Any comments or questions? I'm doing page by page. So page 1, page 2, page 3, page 4, page 5. Shall I take those as an accurate record? Okay. Thank you. So, first main item of business is the Staffordshire History Centre update, and I believe we've got a report from Staffs County Council on this, so I'll pass over.
Thank you, Chair. So this is a regular update on the Staffordshire History Centre project. So it's an update from the previous report on the 27th of June, looking at the activities programme, capital work and the opening of the History Centre. So looking at the activities progress in paragraph 2, I think the key item is that from April to October this year, 50 activities have been delivered, engaging 2,394 participants. As we've been in temporary accommodation, the majority of these activities have been delivered at other venues. I would say a highlight for us was the participation in the first Stafford Pride Parade in August, where the History Centre had a float, and it was a really, really positive activity, and we were able to collect items from the Pride Parade as well. So compared to the previous year, from 2023, we've engaged 4% more people, so it's just showing really steady progress. We've also had 3 work experience students, and we've continued to test our school sessions, engaging over 800 pupils. Moving on to sort of paragraph 5. The focus has been on moving the team back to the History Centre from August. We had to pause our on-site public service whilst we did that, and also on-site volunteering. So it basically enabled the team to do the fit-out of the History Centre and also deliver a number of preview events, including cabinet members, senior leadership team, and a variety of groups with really positive feedback. On the 4th of November, under paragraph 6, we did a soft launch of the website, which is a new website for the joint service, not just the History Centre. So there's a presence now for the History Centre, but also Stoke-on-Trent City Archives as well. That's just the first phase, so we will be integrating our online catalogue and including e-commerce at a later phase. We've continued to digitise significant parts of the collection, over 10,000 items digitised this year, and cataloguing the William Salt Library collection continues to progress well, with 10,200 items out of a target of 12,000. Our volunteers have continued to support the project, 83 engaged with the service, and again nearly 2,500 hours so far this year, which equates to £48,000 of in-kind match funding. We've also been recruiting to our new welcome volunteer roles. We'd had 11 at the time of writing this report. It might have gone up since then. And we've been inducting them and getting them ready to start their new visitor welcome roles. The Staffordshire History Network continues to thrive as well. We've had a total of 802 people subscribe to the newsletter. It's a way of supporting other heritage organisations across the county, and we've delivered 4 network events. So in terms of progress on the capital work, on paragraph 10, so we had partial handover of the site in August, which was then followed by the team moving back to site. Work on the strong rooms continued, and we eventually had handover at the end of September, beginning of November, finally completed the work on the strong rooms. So we've now got a sort of working through the snagging list of minor issues, which obviously is standard with a project of this size. So after the sort of fit out in August, we had a welcome video filmed on site by Wide Sky, which is available in the History Centre and also on the website. The collections team and engagement and access team worked together on installing the main exhibition space with sort of star objects from our collections, looking at themes such as shoemaking, food, including Staffordshire oatcakes, and other themes such as childhood as well. And that was all based on the feedback from the family-friendly co-production sessions. The William Salt Library building has been sensitively restored. All floors have been cleaned and varnished, original bookcases and furniture reinstalled, and we've got some light touch interpretation. Our research room's been fitted out to welcome research visitors back to the site. We've got new public access computers and digital microfiche film readers, and we've got a quick reference collection from the William Salt Library available in the research room. And the sort of really important part of the project, but the bit that people don't necessarily get to see, is the new strong rooms. They're passive stores, and they're providing up to 50 years of growing space for the collections. So all the work's been completed, the mobile shelving's been installed, but we've got another 6 to 12 months for the stores to dry out. Because they're concrete construction, there's a lot of moisture that will be given off. So we're looking at moving collections sort of next spring, summer of 2025. We report regularly to the National Lottery Heritage Fund. So far we've done 9 progress reports. The Heritage Fund visited site in October and really impressed by progress, and they continue to comment really positively on the project, and they think it's an excellent example of a local authority managed project. So we had our soft launch and opening of the doors on the 6th of November of the History Centre. We're open 10 till 4, Tuesday to Saturday, with access to the research room Tuesday to Friday and the 3rd Saturday of the month. So we've had a lot of positive coverage supported by our comms team through social media and news outlets, and we've just started a programme of spotlight talks and craft activities. I can tell you that we've gone over 1,000 visitors since we opened the doors, and we've also had our first school visit on Monday as well. That's another sort of piloting test visit. Feedback's been overwhelmingly positive, and we have our official opening next Monday. So the recommendation is to note the update and the progress report, and I'm happy to take any questions.
Yeah, thanks for that. That's a really thorough report. The recommendation is to note, and we will go to questions. So if anyone's got any, by all means.
Thank you, Chair. Having been initially involved in this project, how long ago now, Joe? About 20 years, is it? When Jumbo ran the committee. But it's taken a long time, and this is a brilliant result, to be quite frank. I think it's absolutely fantastic. You've done a brilliant job. It's coming on budget on time as well, hasn't it? So, I mean, really, it's you've done a sterling job in the progressing of it and the building of the thing. Because, I mean, I've watched it go up over the last, 4 years, is it? Something like that. So, it's all credit to you and all credit to William Salters. There's lots of people who've used that for research, including my wife when she was doing her PhD. So, you know, there's some really good stuff going on there, and I'm so pleased that this is actually taking place and finished. So, well done to you, Joe, and the rest of the team.
Yes, I was having a look at the website. The website is particularly good. It's a good signpost, so it's certainly going in the right direction. I think we're looking forward to a visit after this meeting. So we're looking forward to that. If there's any other questions, no. Okay. So the vote is to note the report. All in favour? Yep. Against? That's clearly carried. So thank you once again. Okay, we move to item 5, which is the forecast outturn for 24-25. And before anyone points it out, I will just state that Stoke-on-Trent looks like it is forecast at the current moment, as we talk about it in November, for being slightly over. That will be dealt with before year end. It will be dealt with internally, and that's what's going to happen with that. So with that in mind, would anyone like to speak to the report? I've got the 151 from Staffs County is best placed. Yep, yourself. Yep, coming in your direction. Here you go.
Okay, so the report is to update the committee on the latest forecast outturn for this financial year. So if I can draw your attention to Appendix 1 of the report. So to date, we've currently spent 390,000, which is approximately 42% of the total annual budget for the service, which is 927,000. So after taking account of transfers to and from reserves, we are forecasting a break-even position for this year. So if I start with core services, so the overall forecast underspend is £2,000, and this is due to one-off savings on employees within Staffordshire County Council. And then Stoke-on-Trent's core services are currently forecast to break even. So it's assumed that the underspend for Staffordshire of £2,000 will be transferred into the respective reserve at the end of the financial year. So sites and public services. So Staffordshire County Council is currently forecasting an underspend of £2,000, and that's again due to one-off savings against employees. I mean, it's assumed that the forecast underspend, again will be transferred to the respective reserve at the end of the financial year, giving rise to a break-even position. For Stoke-on-Trent sites and public services, I mean, at the moment, based on this forecast, we were forecasting an overspend of 19,000. So we've got the second payment for the removal costs associated with the relocation of the archives service of 9,000, and then a general budget shortfall against the overall cost of the archives service of 10,000. So both transfers at the moment have been forecast as taking place from the to and from the respective reserve to give a break-even position. Obviously with this one, if the spend does reduce down on Stoke's side, or if any growth is added in, then that transfer from reserve of 10,000 that's currently forecast would again reduce down. So the reserves position, if I can draw your attention to Appendix 2. So we've got 3 reserves currently totalling 629,000. So this is made up of the general reserve, which has 561,000. We've got an archives acquisition reserve, which holds a balance of 58,000, and then we've got a specific reserve of 10,000 for the art fund grant for the Minton collection. I mean, based on the current forecast that I've just taken you through in Appendix 1, the remaining reserves as at the end of 24-25 available for use are currently forecast to be 570,000. So that's 59,000 less than the current balance of 629,000. So that does assume a transfer into the general reserve for Staffordshire County Council of £2,000 against core services and 2,000 again against sites and public services. It also includes a transfer from Staffordshire's general reserve of 45,000 as match funding for the History Centre project for microfiche cabinets. That costs £10,000, and a light sculpture in the archway with projected costs of 35,000, totaling 45,000 for the two. And then at the moment, the transfer from reserve for Stoke-on-Trent's general reserve is the budget shortfall of £10,000, and then the second payment for the removal costs of the archives relocation of £9,000. So that's the report. Has anybody got any questions at all?
So the motion is to note and approve. Have we got anyone want to ask any questions? Okay, so we will go to the vote to note and approve. Okay, all in favour? Okay. None against. Okay, that's carried. Thank you very much. Move to item 6, joint archive service, and who would like to introduce that for us? Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Chair. So this update is this report is a review of the digital preservation policy for the Joint Archive Service. So just in summary, the last time that the policy was reviewed by the Joint Archives Committee was on the 7th of February 2019. We've actually had a digital preservation policy in place since 2007, and it's part of our role as a place of deposit and as an accredited archive service. So we must be able to demonstrate ability to preserve not just paper-based records, but also digital records. So moving on through to the report from paragraphs 4, the policy follows a template which was actually developed by a regional network, Archives West Midlands. So it's developed a sort of best practice policy template. So we follow that and adapt it for our local needs. Purpose of the policy in paragraph 5 is to identify the key principles in which we will receive digital records and make them available to users. And as I said, this is a requirement as part of our role as a place of deposit. So under paragraph 6, the scope of the policy is defined in section 3 of the policy, and we define what digital records, born digital records, as those which have been created and managed electronically, whereas we define made digital records as those which were originally paper-based and digitised for business, preservation or access needs. So there is a distinction between the two types of records. If it's born digital, it's only ever existed in that format, and that's the sort of crucial records that we're looking to preserve. So our policy scope defines the types of records that we may accept and the information that we require to accompany the deposit. And section 4 of the policy in paragraph 8 identifies where we may receive digital records from, and the key source of records will be our parent authorities, so Staffordshire County Council and Stoke-on-Trent City Council. So in section 5 of the policy, we identify the main objectives that we require to ensure that we can maintain digital archives. Policy also identifies roles and responsibilities across the service for maintaining records and cross-references other policies as a service. So moving on to implementation and strategy, in paragraph 9, we did acquire the Preservica digital preservation system in 2019, which is funded by Staffordshire County Council's archive service budget. Since 2019, we've made limited progress on implementation. This is in part due to a restructure of the service in May 2021, which reduced staffing resources, and then very significantly the delivery of the History Centre project, which has occupied a lot of the service capacity. So moving on to paragraph 10, at the moment Staffordshire County Council is introducing a new corporate file plan which will move digital records to a SharePoint system. And as part of this project, all services will be reviewing legacy digital records according to the Council's retention schedule. So there is a process established which will enable the archive service to review those records before final disposal decisions are made. However, it is anticipated that the volume of records for review initially will be significant as the Council transfers to a new file plan structure. And at the moment, it's identified that we lack sufficient resource to meet this initial significant demand and fully implement the Preservica system. So at paragraph 12, we've highlighted the risks if we're not able to review records, which is that we may lose records relating to key council functions such as children's and adult social services. We may lose accreditation if we're unable to meet the standard to accept and manage digital records, and we may be unable to take records from other public bodies such as the Joint Coroner's Service and the Magistrates' Courts. So those are obviously key risks for the service. So what we're recommending that the policy review is approved, but we're also recommending that we bring a later update, a further update to the Joint Archives Committee when we've identified an approach for how we will review digital archives that have been generated by the Staffordshire County Council's Corporate File Plan project. And since writing the report, we have had initial conversations with corporate services, and we're looking to work together to develop a plan as to how we will address this significant increase in digital records to the service. So it's the recommendation that we bring a further update and approve the policy.
Just before I go to questions, have you got any indication of when you think you'll be in a position to bring that further update back? And obviously, if it's a work in progress, I understand if you haven't got a time frame for that right now.
Yeah, we can bring an update at the next meeting as to what the progress is and potential plan for how we'll deal with that demand.
So just a question from me. This is twofold, I understand. This is not just to preserve our history and our our collections, but it's also to assist with recording all of the minutes and all of the agendas and all of that stuff for all the meetings that happen in this building and at SP1. Is there any indication of what sort of cost we're looking at? I mean, is it negligible, or could it be significant? Is it potentially a risk for us?
So the cost of the digital preservation system is already built into the archive service budget. So that cost is dealt with, and it's about £5,000. What we're needing is staffing resource. So we need to do further work to quantify the size of the problem. So we're at the beginning stage of the corporate file plan project, and initial conversations with the corporate services directorate with the team dealing with that is that I think earlier, sort of next year, we'll have services that have transitioned through that and be able to identify, well, how many records are we talking about? At the moment, I can't quantify that for you, and therefore it's difficult for me to give you an accurate cost at this point. But I'm just sort of flagging it as a potential risk at this point.
Any other questions? Yeah.
Yeah, I think it leads on from what Councillor Wilson has just said. I'm quite concerned about Section 12, the risks. So I take it what you're saying then is those risks there to the council and various other things about keeping the records would be negated if this is introduced, plus we've got the ongoing resources to be able to do the work. And what you're looking at is what resources that would be required to be able to implement that. And that's what will be coming back at the next meeting. Have I got that right?
Yes, you have. It's the staff and resource, and until we know the size of the problem, we can't work out, you know, is that a full-time post, is that a part-time post, what would that cost, how might that cost be met, would it be met just by the archive service, or is that a corporate cost? There are a lot of options that we need to look at really, but the initial thing, good thing is that we've got the initial conversations with corporate services working together. I think we concentrate often on the sort of cultural assets that we have, but the Joint Archive Service as a whole performs a legal function for both its parent authorities in looking after the records that are generated that do need to be made available to meet, you know, statutory legislation.
And sort of further to that, you spoke earlier about digitalisation of stuff with volunteers and stuff like this. I take it in relation to key council records and that we're not talking about that being done by volunteers.
The records, some of the records might be digitised, but not records that are sensitive. So, for example, some of the records that we've had digitised are aerial photos. Technically, they're from the planning.
Sorry, John, can you put your mic nearer to...
Sorry, can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Hearing aid on.
Sorry, what did you say?
So, for example, we've had aerial photos digitised, which technically they come from the corporate planning department. There's nothing sensitive about those records, so volunteers will be helping to locate those as to where they are. We wouldn't involve volunteers in digitising sensitive records such as children's records or social care records.
And then are we currently behind on doing this work? Or are we currently up to speed, or are we not doing it?
So in terms of the digital preservation work, the priority has been getting the History Centre open and ready, so we had hard deadlines to meet. So I would say pace has slowed. Some of the local authorities haven't even acquired a system, but then some of the local authorities have acquired a system and have been working on it. So pace has slowed, and we do need to sort of start making progress on it again to ensure that when we are, we've got to apply for accreditation next year, so we need to show that we're actively working on this to demonstrate that we're aware of the problem and we've got a plan for how we're going to deal with it as an authority, for both authorities.
I had a question actually about the use of Preservica. Is it historic records to tell the story of a child or an adult for future reference, or is it literally current records that you'd be looking to keep on Preservica?
It would be records not that are in current use, that they would be used by the service. But records concerning children have long retention periods, so at least 75 years, and they have to be available so that if that child wants to come back and see what was my story, what happened to me when I was either adopted or in care, that they're able to do that. So there's a requirement for a long retention period. For 75 years for a digital record that's quite significant. So you do need to take action sort of earlier on in the process, but we would only take records that are not currently being used. It wouldn't be appropriate for them to transfer to the archive service before that point.
Thanks, Joe, for the report. There's a number of things that I want to ask a few questions on. The policy identifies roles and responsibilities across the service for managing and maintaining digital records, cross-references, other relevant policies. Does that mean that all the records from the county, districts and boroughs come into you to digitise so that they've got access to those records in the future? No. Okay.
No, this policy is talking about records that only existed in digital format. It's not talking about digitising records.
Okay.
We may digitise records if they're identified as a priority for research needs, and we've done some of that through the History Centre project, but we wouldn't do wholesale digitisation. That would be hugely expensive and potentially unnecessary, because not all of the records will have high demand.
That was my next question. How much does it cost?
What, millions?
The other thing is on 9, digital preservation system. 2019 is 5 years ago. Why have we only made limited progress in 5 years? That's number one. I know we've had the COVID and everything else that's gone along with it. That's number one. Reduced staffing resources since the service restructure May the 21st. What does that mean and what happened there? And when you, pardon me, I was frogging my throat. Part of this project, all services are reviewing legacy digital records, retention schedule. Process has been established. I'd like to see what that process is. And as my fellow councillors have alluded to, they've made some really good points here. The risk factors are frightening, to be quite frank, because if some of this stuff isn't done in certain time frames, are we going to be held responsible for it? And could there be legal representations about it? And the other thing is, I'd like to see a timeline, because as an engineer, I've been in big projects. I'd like to see a project report with timelines, what's going to happen when, how much it's going to cost, and what resources you need, please.
So yeah, not much to deal with there.
So to address the first few points, so as I've said, progress was delayed partly because we were delivering the History Centre project. The service was restructured in 2021 and 40% of the staff resources were reduced, so that's why there's been a slowing pace. In terms of a timeline and what's going to happen and when, that's something that we can bring as part of the update at the next meeting.
How much?
Yes, we'll bring a project, a further update and a project outline.
I think that will be included in the further report that they're going to bring.
We're going to make sure it is, though, Alistair.
Yes. Thank you. Okay, the recommendation is to approve and receive a further update. So all in favour? Yep, that's carried. Thank you. Move on to what I'll correctly title this time, item 7, which is Staffordshire History Centre Safeguarding Policy. And this is about approving the introduction of the suite of documents and to note the designated safeguarding lead. So who would like to speak to that, or are we happy to go to the vote? Right, okay.
Thank you, Chair. This report covers the introduction of a safeguarding policy for the Staffordshire History Centre. Good practice in safeguarding is essential for any venue that welcomes in and works with audiences that may be vulnerable or at risk of harm. So it's critical that we have a comprehensive policy supported by clear and robust operational procedures, and that's to ensure the safety of all of our staff, volunteers, trustees and visitors. So this policy has been created to be relevant and proportional to the activity delivered both at and under the banner of the Staffordshire History Centre. So it doesn't cover the joint service, it is specific to the Staffordshire History Centre. The policy will form the basis of safeguarding training for all staff, volunteers and William Salt Library trustees, and that training will be relevant to their role. The policy is supported by documents that lay out clear instructions on how to respond to different safeguarding situations, and the policy is relevant to both physical and digital activity. And a designated safeguarding lead has been introduced so that a relevant manager has operational oversight of safeguarding at the Staffordshire History Centre. The activity that now takes place in the Staffordshire History Centre includes public events, an educational offer for schools and community engagement. So this requires a robust safeguarding policy because of those audiences that we are now working with. The policy has been developed using tools, information and best practice guidance from the museum sector. And in order to create the policy, specialist training on safeguarding awareness was undertaken. The policy forms the basis of our approach to safeguarding. It establishes what safeguarding means to us, what risk and abuse is. It also sets out very specific guidance on best practice and examples for staff and volunteers on how to act in certain situations. The information in the policy is broad and covers a range of likely scenarios. The information is reinforced and supported in our operational procedure documents, which are accessible to all staff, volunteers and trustees. All staff, volunteers and trustees will have safeguarding awareness training, and this will be delivered by the Engagement and Access Manager. Additional specialist training will be provided to specific staff, and this is based on the nature of their role, and it's set out in our training matrix. A key element of this policy is the introduction of a designated safeguarding lead, and this will be undertaken by the Engagement and Access Manager. It's recognised good practice that any cultural venues that regularly work with children, young people or vulnerable adults have a designated safeguarding lead. The safeguarding lead will escalate all safeguarding concerns, ensure all training is completed, review and test the policy and supporting procedures, and be the main point of contact for all safeguarding concerns, including reporting to local authority partnership boards. So in summary, the policy has been developed using sector recognised best practice and has been tailored to be highly relevant to the work of the Staffordshire History Centre. So the recommendations are to approve the introduction of the Staffordshire History Centre safeguarding policy, to note the use of supporting procedural documents, and to note the introduction of a designated safeguarding lead.
Yep, thank you very much. It's reassuring to know that there is one and it's been well thought through. So, for questions, we'll come in this way. John?
Yeah, just a quick one. I've just noticed on 4 useful items, bullet point 3, disclosure and barring service has taken over from the duties of former Criminal Records Bureau. Who are they? When were they formed? What's happening with them? What are they going to do? And how do they access the records to make sure it's all kosher?
So disclosure and barring service is the new name that's used for that process of in safe recruitment, where we would undergo a criminal records check. So it's still a criminal records check, it's just got a new name. It's something that we do in recruitment based on the role and the regulated activity that a person will undertake. At the Staffordshire History Centre, there's actually only one member of staff that undertakes regulated activity, which is our learning officer, and they have been through that check as part of their safer recruitment process.
So when did that change then?
I would have to look up that change.
As long as the safeguards are in place, that's all I'm worried about.
Thank you for that. Yes?
More general question. I agree with everything in this report. I've got no questions about the policy at all. That's great. No, I just don't quite understand why it needs to come to a council committee. Isn't this just business as usual? Do we do this for every public building, every library? Does that go through a council committee? I just really don't see the point.
So under the constitution of the Joint Archive Service, all policies for the service come to the Joint Archives Committee. That's our process for approving them. For a wholly, so for example, the Heritage Service, the Museum Service, where that's a policy that's just wholly concerning the museum, we just use an internal process. But our governance, our constitution requires that the policies are approved by this committee. But you're quite right, not every policy does go to a council committee.
Yes, thank you. As I say, it's reassuring that we've got a policy and it's robust and well thought through and it's up to date with modern standards. So that's very good, especially as we've got children now visiting the first visit, which is absolutely brilliant, and many more to come. So let's just get my wording correct. So it's to approve and note. All in favour? Okay, that is carried. Thank you so much. And we come to our last item, which is disposals from the Staffordshire Archive collections, for which there appear to be three buckets. So come to yourself. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. Yes, this item is that we ask the committee to approve the transfer and disposal of some archive collections which have been identified through the reappraisal process. So this is something we do all the time, really. It's an ongoing process where we review our collections, make sure that they continue to meet the criteria of our collections development policy, and we regularly review them, really to make sure we make best use of our resources, be that storage, staffing, care of existing collections, and importantly to enable that we have space to acquire further accessions to our collections. So there are three items here where the collections officers have identified material to be transferred or destroyed. Firstly is an amount of financial business records from a manufacturing firm called Edward Williams of Smethwick, who made bicycle parts. The majority of this collection will be retained, it's worth noting. Sandwell Archives would normally nowadays be the archive repository for this material, but they are unable to accept the collection due to space and resources. So the subject to this appraisal are account books which have minimal information, and so we would like to dispose of those, but we will keep a sample to be retained to show the kind of documents that they are. Secondly, there's a small amount of business material from a Glasgow company called Mechans, and they were part of a larger deposit from a Black Country engineering firm. There is material for the same business already held in Glasgow City Archives, and they have said that they would like to add this material to their collections as it's geographically more appropriate. And finally, a series of copy-out letterbooks for the County Surveyors Department 1880 to 1934, which were transferred in 58. Nowadays, the County Council doesn't retain this kind of document, hasn't done so since this period. And the key information held within this copybook is held elsewhere. So it's in minutes, maps and plans, legal documents, which are retained permanently. And once again, we will keep a sample in order to reflect the kind of work that was carried out at this period. Just a reminder that the whole disposal process is in accordance with the Archive Services Collections Development Policy, and it's also a key element in making sure that we comply with the Archive Service Accreditation UK standard for archive services. So it's done ethically along with sort of sector guidelines. And finally, just to say that it is the practice of us to offer collections to other services first, and it is a principle of the policy and the sector that collections are not sold.
Thank you. So it's all been in line with policy. So if there's any questions, we can take those. Okay.
It's actually a more general question, a point of interest really, but relates to what you've been talking about. And that's it. Where we've got records, or where we had records that relate to parts of the county that are no longer in Staffordshire, do we generally offload them or to... So if we've got record, Birmingham, Sandwell, places like that, the parts of which have been in the county, do we generally go through and ask those authorities to take them on, or do we generally keep them, or does it depend how important they are?
I think it depends. I mean, it's a historic thing, really. It dates back to before local government reorganisation in the 1970s. So we do have a lot of legacy collections which cover the Black Country, old Staffordshire, you might call. I think rather than some collections we might try and unify with existing collections within those existing record offices. We certainly don't collect from those areas anymore since the 70s. I think that's fair to say, isn't it, Joe? So it depends is the answer, but broadly speaking, since the 1970s, we haven't collected outside the administrative county of Staffordshire, and we just try and work with neighbouring archive services to make sure collections are unified and in the right place.
Oh, I'm sorry.
It's all right, you can.
Okay. I'm interested in knowing when you approach the relevant archive service, is it just the archive service at that location? You can't exhaustively just contact absolutely everybody, but do you only contact the archives, or is there, you know, other museums or other places of interest that might want them?
Yes, certainly for archive collections, we contact the local archive service. There may be types of material held, such as photograph collections, where we might contact, for instance, in Birmingham, it might be Birmingham Library for a photograph collection, or it might be a museum in a different county. But really, for collections like this, it's only an archive service that's really going to be interested in them, so that's who we contact.
Do you hold records for the mining areas that were included in Staffordshire County at one time, which is as you said, Sandwell, Tipton and a few others that were actually mined in our area in the day? Would you hold those? And the other thing is, what about First World War memorabilia and stuff like that? Because I've got a friend who's very into that and doing a lot of research into First World War archives. And I hope you've still got some of my patents on flipping record and not destroyed them because I can't find my...
We do have some coal mining records, but they do tend to be in different places as well. So certainly South Staffordshire Coalfield and Black Country will be down that neck of the woods. The National Coal Board have a collection as well. There's a National Coal Mining Museum who have big collections. So they're in various places really, but we do hold some coal mining collections. And the second question was about... oh no, there was another one. What was the other collection? Sorry,
I think First World War
First World
memorabilia.
War. Yeah, we do. We have good collection on First World War, and during the commemorative period, we did a lot of research in cataloguing, making all that available. So, yeah, so
Because it was the anniversary, wasn't
it was, yes. So we did a lot of work during that, finding out especially about Staffordshire's home front. So we do have good collections around that.
And
Yeah.
we're coming up to the anniversary of D-Day, so I assume some of that will be in there.
Yes, we do have some to do with the Second World War too, yes.
Thanks a lot. Yeah.
Thank you. If there's no further questions, we'll go to the committee to approve. So all in favour? That's carried. Thank you. We come to the end. Date, time and place of the next meeting is the 27th of... No, it's not. I'm reading the wrong piece of paper. So, is it?
2025. They put the wrong date.
Okay. 27th February 2025. Okay. Good. Right, so we've got that sorted. I'd like to say thank you to all officers and staff who've come and presented. Thank you for your hard work that you do behind the scenes. We can only have, a well-organised meeting when there's well-organised staff doing the work and bringing the reports forward. So thank you. Thank you to councillors who've been here today. And I'm looking forward to a trip around the History Centre now. Thanks so much.